Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the novel. We're going to read the rest of this chapter now, and I have to tell you, if you love animals, it's going to be really hard to listen to. There's a lot of cruelty in this chapter and a lot of symbolism um, of with the animals that are talked about. So here we go.
Said George. How do you like your pup now? Lenny said breathlessly. He's brown and white like I wanted. He went directly to his bunk and lay down and turned his face to the wall and drew up his knees. George put down his cards very deliberately. Lenny, he said sharply. Lenny twisted his neck and looked over his shoulder. Huh? What you want, George? I told you couldn't bring that pup in here. What pup, George? I ain't got no pup. George went quickly to him, grabbed him by the shoulder, and pulled him over. He reached down and picked the tiny puppy from where Lenny had been concealing it, against his stomach. Lenny sat up quickly. Give him to me, George. George said, You get right up and take this pup back to the nest. This got with his mother. Kill him. Born last night, and you take him out of the nest. You take him back, or I'll tell Slim not to let you have him. Lenny held out his hands pleadingly. Give him to me, George. I'll take him back. I didn't mean no harm, George. Honest, I didn't. I just wanted to pet him a little. George handed the pup to him. All right. You get him back there quick, and don't you take him out no more. You kill him, first thing you know. Lenny fairly scuttled out of the room. Slim had not moved. His calm eyes followed Lenny out the door. Jesus, he said. He's just like a kid, ain't he? Sure, he's just like a kid. There ain't no more harm in him than a kid neither, except he's so strong. I'll bet he won't come in here to sleep tonight. He'd sleep right alongside that box in the barn. Well, let him. He ain't doing no harm out there. It was almost dark outside now. Old Candy, the swamper, came in and went to his bunk, and behind him struggled his old dog. Hello, Slim. Hello, George. Didn't either of you play horseshoes? I don't like to play every night, said Slim. Candy went on. Either you guys got a slug of whiskey? I got a gut ache. I ain't, said Slim. I'd drink it myself if I had, and I ain't got a gut ache neither. Got a bad gut ache, said Candy. Them goddamn turnips give it to me. I knowed they was going to before I ever ate 'em. The thick-bodied Carlson came in out of the darkening yard. He walked to the other end of the bunkhouse and turned on the second shaded light. Darker'n hell in here, he said. Jesus, how that nigger can pitch shoes. He's plenty good, said Slim. Damn right he is, said Carlson. He don't give nobody else a chance to win. He stopped and sniffed the air, and still sniffing, looked down at the old dog. God almighty, that dog stinks. Get him out of here, Candy. I don't know nothing that stinks as bad as an old dog. You gotta get him out. Candy rolled to the edge of his bunk. He reached over and patted the ancient dog, and he apologized. Well, I've been around him so much, I never noticed how he stinks. Well, I can't stand him in here, said Carlson. That stink hangs around even after he's gone. He walked over with his heavy-legged stride and looked down at the old dog. Got no teeth, he said. All stiff with rheumatism. He ain't no good to you, Candy. He ain't no good to himself. Why don't you shoot him, Candy? The old man squirmed uncomfortably. Well, hell, I had him so long. Had him since he was a pup. I herded sheep with him, he said proudly. You wouldn't think it to look at him now, but he was the best damn sheepdog I ever seen, George said. I seen a guy in Weed that had a Airedale could herd sheep, learned it from the other dogs. Carlson was not to be put off. Look, Candy, this old dog just suffers himself all the time. You used to take him out and shoot him right in the back of the head. He leaned over and pointed. Right there. Well, he'd never know what hit him. Candy looked about unhappily. No, he said softly. No, I couldn't do that. I had him too long. You don't have no fun, Carlson insisted. He stinks to beat hell. Tell you what, I'll shoot him for you. Then it won't be you that does it. Candy threw his legs off his bunk. He scratched the white stubble whiskers on his cheek nervously. I'm so used to him, he said softly. I had him from a pup.
All right, guys, what do you think? We know that these ranch hands are all alone and that the only people that have each other are Lenny and George. And, Candy, we know he already has something happen to him. I'm not going to be the person to tell you about that, but if you don't know what's wrong with Candy, you better go back, check it out, make sure it's in the character's physical description. And now they want to shoot his dog that he's had since he has a pup. And don't forget, he's alone. He's been on the ranch. What do you think?
Well, you ain't being kind to him, keeping him alive, said Carlson. Look, Slim's bitch got a litter right now. I bet Slim would give you one of them pups to raise up, wouldn't you, Slim? The Skinner had been studying the old dog with his calm eyes. Yeah, he said. You can have a pup if you want to. He seemed to shake himself free for speech. Carl's right, Candy. That dog ain't no good to himself. I wish somebody'd shoot me if I get old and cripple. Candy looked.
So that's ironic if you really look back and find out what's wrong with Candy. And Slim is a good guy on the ranch, but he does agree that the dog is old and he does smell. And I know how most of us feel about our animals and our pets. So this is quite sad. And Carlson, he doesn't care. He just wants the dog out of there.
Helplessly at him, for Slim's opinions were law. Maybe it hurt him, he suggested. I don't mind taking care of him. Carlson said, the way I'd shoot him, he wouldn't feel nothing. I'd put the gun right there. He pointed with his toe, right back of the head. He wouldn't even quiver. Candy looked for help from face to face. It was quite dark outside by now. A young laboring man came in. His sloping shoulders were bent forward, and he walked heavily on his heels, as though he carried the invisible grain bag. He went to his bunk and put his hat on his shelf, then picked up a pulp magazine from his shelf and brought it to the light over the table. Did I show you this, Slim? He asked. Show me what? The young man turned to the back of the magazine, put it down on the table, and pointed with a finger. Right there, read that. Slim bent over it. Go on, said the young man. Read it out loud. Dear Editor, Slim read slowly. I read your mag for 6 years, and I think it's the best on the market. I like stories by Peter Rand. I think he is a wingding. Give us more like The Dark Rider. I don't write many letters, just thought I would tell you I think your mag is the best dime's worth I ever spent. Slim looked up questioningly. What you want me to read that for? Wit said. Go on, read the name at the bottom. Slim read. Yours for success, William Tenner. He glanced up at Wit again. What you want me to read that for? Wit closed the magazine impressively. Don't you remember Bill Tenner? Worked here about 3 months ago. Slim thought. Little guy? He asked. Drove a cultivator? That's him, Wit cried. That's the guy. You think he's the guy that wrote this letter? I know it. Bill and me was in here one day. Bill had one of them books just come. He was looking in it, and he says, I wrote a letter. Wonder if they put it in the book. But it wasn't there. Bill says, maybe they're saving it for later. And that's just what they done. There it is. Guess you're right, said Slim. We got it right in the book. George held out his hand for the magazine. Let's look at it. Wit found the place again, but he did not surrender his hold on it. He pointed out the letter with his forefinger, and then he went to his box shelf and laid the magazine carefully in. I wonder if Bill's seen it, he said. Bill and me worked in that patch of field peas, run cultivators, both of us. Bill was a hell of a nice fella. During the conversation, Carlson had refused to be drawn in. He continued to look down at the old dog. Candy watched him uneasily. At last, Carlson said, If you want me to, I'll put the old devil out of his misery right now and get it over with. Ain't nothing left for him. Can't eat, can't see, can't even walk without hurting. Candy said hopefully, Well, you ain't got no gun. The hell I ain't. Got a Luger. Won't hurt him none at all. Candy said, Maybe tomorrow. Let's wait till tomorrow. I don't see no reason for it, said Carlson. He went to his bunk, pulled his bag from underneath it, and took out a Luger pistol. Let's get it over with, he said. We can't sleep with him stinking around in here. He put the pistol in his hip pocket. Candy looked a long time at Slim to try to find some reversal, and Slim gave him none. At last, Candy said softly and hopelessly, All right. Take him. He did not look down at the dog at all. He lay back on his bunk and crossed his arms behind his head and stared at the ceiling. From his pocket, Carlson took out a little leather thong. He stooped over and tied it around the old dog's neck. All the men except Candy watched him. Come on, boy. Come on, boy, he said gently. And he said apologetically to Candy, He won't even feel it. Candy did not move nor answer him. He twitched the thong. Come on, boy. The old dog got slowly and stiffly to his feet and followed the gently pulling leash. Slim said, Carlson? Yeah? You know what to do. What you mean, Slim? Take a shovel, said Slim shortly. Oh, sure. I get you. He led the dog out into the darkness. George followed to the door and shut the door and set the latch gently in its place. Candy lay rigidly on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Slim said loudly, One of my lead mules got a bad hoof. Got to get some tar on it. His voice trailed off. It was
They're all waiting now to hear the sound of the gunshot. So Slim starts talking loudly. He's sympathetic to all this. And it's really horrible. Don't forget, back in these times, the only entertainment they had, sometimes they had a radio, but there was no television. It wasn't invented yet. And the men's entertainment has been horseshoes, cards, and then going into town, which we will talk about a little later on in the book, and some of their entertainment that they have. So this is a rough end of the scene. We're going to stop here after we finish it, and then I'm going to ask you some questions and ask you to express your opinion on what would you have done if you were Candy.
silent outside. Carlson's footsteps died away. The silence came into the room, and the silence lasted. George chuckled. I bet Lenny's right out there in the barn with his pup. He won't want to come in here no more now he's got a pup. Slim said, Candy, you can have any one of them pups you want. Candy did not answer. The silence fell on the room again. It came out of the night and invaded the room. George said, Anybody like to play a little euchre?
That's a
I'll
card
play out a
game.
few with you, said Whit. They took places opposite each other at the table under the light, but George did not shuffle the cards. He rippled the edge of the deck nervously, and the little snapping noise drew eyes from all the men in the room, so that he stopped doing it. The silence fell on the room again. A minute passed. Another minute. Candy lay still, staring at the ceiling. Slim gazed at him for a moment and then looked down at his hands. He subdued one hand with the other and held it down. There came a little gnawing sound from under the floor, and all the men looked down toward it gratefully. Only Candy continued to stare at the ceiling. Sounds like there's a rat under there, George said. We ought to set a trap down there. Whit broke out. What the hell's taking him so long? Lay out some cards, why don't you? We ain't gonna get no euchre played this way. George brought the cards together tightly and studied the backs of them. The silence was in the room again. A shot sounded in the distance. The men looked quickly at the old man, every head turned toward him. For a moment, he continued to stare at the ceiling. Then, he rolled slowly over and faced the wall and lay silent. George shuffled the cards noisily and dealt them. Whit drew a scoring board to him and set the pegs to start. Whit said, "I guess you guys really come here to work." "How do you mean?" George asked. Whit laughed. "Well, you come on a Friday. You got 2 days of work till Sunday." "I don't see how you figure," said George. Whit laughed again. "Well, you do if you've been around these big ranches much. Guy that wants to look over a ranch comes in Saturday afternoon. He gets Saturday night supper, 3 meals on Sunday, and he can quit Monday morning after breakfast without turning his hand. But you come to work Friday noon. You got to put in a day and a half no matter how you figure." George looked at him levelly. "We're going to stick around a while," he said. "Me and Lenny's going to roll up a steak." The door opened quietly and the stable buck.
Okay, so we're going to stop right here because it was a very dramatic scene. I have some questions for you to answer, a little room to give me more of an extended paragraph. Please stay caught up on your work, and really proud of you guys, and keep up the good work.